Hi, this is Samina Sheikh here on Zoom channel, and with me today I have the ad man, madman Prahlad Kakkar, welcoming him on Zoom channel, and I'm all set to hear a lot of interesting stories from him. So, welcoming him on Zoom.
They're all in the book, my dear. So when you read the book, and whoever reads the book will see a lot of interesting stories in the book. But because the book is 180,000 words, I had to leave out a hell of a lot of my life. So maybe there'll be a second book.
Awesome. And I can directly see this. If you could see this, it's already a very interesting book. And we could see a special photo shoot. Prahlad sir enjoying the fish just next to
Well,
him.
more than the fish,
More than the fish.
the dog is
The dog is enjoying the view, actually, what he's getting,
which nobody else is.
which nobody else is.
So if you look closely at the dog, you'll find his eyes sort of opening up. You know, oops.
So, when was this when you shot for this special photo
It
shoot?
was 1 month after my bypass, which was about 15 years ago. So if you see, my hair is all black. Right now, my hair is all white. Now, my hair is still black, but my beard is all white. So this was done almost 14 years ago.
Awesome. Which is like you may be in your 50s and still so.
I wasn't. I had bypass when I was 54. And this was when I was 50, almost 55.
And really looks so fit in this one. It looks like, your early days photo shoot, and it's done so well. And I saw the other side of it also, which was like with some beautiful girls around you and just a posture of them.
Two photographs that were taken. It was an assignment which Mohammed Khan had for Times of India, and he was asked to do some ads for them. And he said, well, there are two stories about you. One is the myth that you're always surrounded by beautiful women and in bikinis, and you are dressed in a tux with a cigar in your mouth and your hair flying. And the other is your version of yourself. So he said, well, I said, I'd like to shoot both. So he said, that's your problem. First you shoot the myth version because that's what they want. And then you shoot your version and we see what to do with it. So I shot both. One was with a tux and two girls in a bikini in front. And the copy is more or less the same. Okay, and it says, at the end, it only says, he also reads the Times of India. So what they were trying to say was that the Times of India is read by everybody. But madmen, admen, yahoos, people who are scandalous, people who are not, people who are politically correct, people who are politically incorrect like me, So that means that it's the coverage is so vast that everybody reads it. So that's what they wanted to show. That not only good, middle class, upstanding citizens read it, but so does people like Yahoo, like Prahlad Kakkar. So the ad that they put out was with the tux and the girls, because that's what everybody thinks.
And over the years, Prahlad sir, over the years, I've read about you, I have heard about you, and I've always heard this like, he's a madman, he's a madman. What is this name which comes to you, which is madman?
Well, I think in a society which is constrained by rules, and you live in that constrainment, regardless of what you are, who depends on whether you're middle class, whether you are Muslim, Hindu, Christian, whatever, you live by certain rules of engagement. Okay, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to bend the rules, if not break the rules. And I wanted to set my own rules. So, for my generation, when I started working, I started pushing the boundaries of accepted professional behavior as well as social behavior. So I didn't care. I mean, didn't care what anybody said about me. I just lived my life the way I wanted to live my life. So for a society that is full of rules, I was a madman because I had to break all the rules.
And I think I would more be in support of you because I really enjoy breaking the rules. And I could see that, there is a different perception when people are breaking the rules and creating something else altogether. And I feel that that is what you have done. You have given such beautiful ads to us and also some beautiful faces. Talking about the first one, which became viral that time, was your ad with Aishwarya Rai Bachchan. If you could say something about it.
Well, Aishwarya, see, we were given a film which New York had made, actually. It was called Tenji, with Michael J. Fox as the hero. So they gave it to us and said, can you make this film for India? So I said, see, it's a great idea. because the concept is universal. It's not necessarily American or British or European or anything. It's universal. That a guy sees a young, pretty-looking girl, and he wants to do whatever he can to keep her engaged. Okay, and then after after the huge thing, he manages to get her what she wants. Then the rebel goes and she says that must be Sanju, and Sanju is a boy's name. So automatically she's face fall because you think that she's talking about her boyfriend, and she says, "Oh shit, she's got a boyfriend," and in walks a bombshell. And he looks at her and his jaw drops and he says, "Yeah, I'll don't worry, I'll get you another." So it was all around. But the idea was great. But the challenge was that how were we going to make it relevant to India? How were we going to make it different? And how could we put our stamp on it rather than put a stamp saying that they've copied it? So the challenge was that if we didn't do it well, they'd say, "Yaar, copy bhi nahi kar sake." And if we did it well, they'd say, "Copy kiya." So, we wanted to do the film, but there was this thing that ya to copy nahi kar sake, ya copy kiya hai. So how could we put our stamp on it? So then I realized that the key was in the casting. So I said, "I will not let you interfere with the casting. I will cast it." So he said, "No, we've got some stars in mind." So at that time, Shah Rukh was just coming into play. But Aamir had already become a very big name because of his QSQT. Qayamat se Qayamat tak. And he had become a huge phenomenon. And he didn't look like a hero. Looked like the boy next door. And Michael J. Fox also looks like the boy next door. So I said, if we need an equivalent in India for Michael J. Fox, we need Aamir. Because Shah Rukh is still, a wannabe. He's still making it. He hasn't yet made it. So, though he's making it, because he had a lot of fan following after his TV serials, which was Circus, and the one before that, which was on the army, where everybody noticed him. And that's why he moved from Delhi to Bombay. So we started negotiating with Aamir. Aamir had never done an ad film before. He didn't want to do ad film because in the industry at that time, ads were a bad name. Because it meant that you were not doing well in the industry, and that's why you were trying to do ads to make up for some money. So nobody in the industry wanted to do ads because they thought, "वो छाप लग जाएगा कि हमारा चक्का नहीं चल रहा, so we are doing ads, in our spare time." So I convinced him. I showed him the original film, and I said, "ये film है, it'll make you bigger than what you are at." So he said, "How can an ad film make me bigger? I'm already a star. Only a feature film can make me bigger, not an ad film." I said, "You'll be surprised. Because they'll see this film 3 times a day, every day of their lives. They can't see your feature 3 times a day, every day of your life. They see it maximum twice, thrice. Uske baad kaun dekhne wala hai?" So he agreed, but he wanted a price. He wanted 25 lakhs at that time. And Shah Rukh only wanted 5. And the reason for Shah Rukh wanted 5 or 6 was because Shah Rukh had a very specific name. He wanted to move out of his paying guest accommodation and buy a house for himself. And he had managed to summate enough money to buy the house. He was short of 6 lakhs. So he said, "Yaar, मैं एक ad कर लूँगा, कुछ 6 lakh मिल जाएंगे, मेरा घर खरीद जाएगा." So he had no ulterior motive. He wasn't worried about kitna money. He would have done free also if he didn't need the house. But he wanted to buy a house. And he was short of 6 lakhs. So his price was 6 lakhs. Aamir's price was 25 lakhs because he said, I want 25 lakhs, so I'm not doing it. Because he was not actually interested. So, yaar, ye to, we'll negotiate with him. मैंने कहा, "करो." So, he spent 2 months negotiating with him to try and bring it down. He didn't budge. So, finally, घूम फिर के जैसे, "अच्छा ठीक है यार, वो डायरेक्टर बोल रहा है कि तू यही लेना है तो चलो. We'll give you 25 lakhs. So they found the money and they paid him for that. The next film that we did for was Shah Rukh. It was the dog film. Okay, so we did this, and then from Delhi they found Mahima. Her name was not Mahima at that time. Her name was her original name. So we found her looking pretty and like the girl next door. She didn't look like a film star. And then we needed a bombshell. So we looked all over the place and we couldn't find one. We couldn't find one until one of my girls called Munia Saigal, who was down at Kailash Surnath's office, and she found this girl from architecture college with one jhola and one torn pair of jeans and kurti and exactly like a student, looking quite jal, And she looked at her and said, "She's a girl." And she brought her up to my office. And I looked at her and said, "Are you sure? Because she doesn't look great." Yeah. I mean, look at her. She said, "I'm telling you, you give her a video test, you dress her up, she looks stunning." So we put her in a small film as a small part for Prudent Mouthwash. And when she appeared on the staircase, which was her first look, everybody on the set just went, "Wow." And we said, "Great, we found our girl." So we told her that, "Karegi." She said, "No, no, this is very big and I'm very nervous and all that." So this was her actual first Indian commercial. She had done one film for Pakistan long time ago, but not for India. And she was very nervous because she knew that it was a very big brand. And what we wanted her to do was walk into the frame and just stop everybody there and say, "Wow." I said, "You already done it." So on my side, everybody just stopped, and looked at you on the staircase and said, "Wow." So you don't have to worry about it. So we finally convinced her to do it. So there was Maima, there was Aishwarya, and there was Aamir. And we did this with them. And the rest is history. It was like overnight, everybody wanted to know who's Sanju because nobody knew her. They'd never seen her before, you know. I got some 6,000 phone calls in about 3 days saying, "Who's Sanju?" So, and the best part of it was that the name Sanju came from the client, Vibha Rishi, who had her daughter's name was Sanju. So she said, Sanjana. She said, "We call her Sanjana, Sanju, short form, so that because we needed a name that could become a guy's name and a woman's name. Because we needed him to feel disappointed that, "Arey, yaar, uska boyfriend aa gaya," between. So we use Sanju, and I read a recent article there. Somebody did a research that in that particular year, how many children were named Sanjana after the film. So it made that kind of an impact. And of course, after that, ruled the Bruce. They were number one brand in this country.
There was one such ad which also featured Amitabh Bachchan and Sachin Tendulkar, and it was directed by you. So tell us about that. It became viral. Like apart from this one,
It became viral because the first time the two biggest stars, one from the movies and one from the sports area, came together in one ad film. Nobody had ever done that before. Nobody had ever put them both together. Yeah. So when we did that, it was a coup. It was a casting coup actually. And the whole thing was based on a kite competition, paints. And there was Amitabh Bachchan flying a kite. He had his own group of cheerers. And suddenly, challenger comes, Sachin Tendulkar. He had his own group of cheerers. So kabhi khinch, kabhi deel, kabhi ye, kabhi upar, kabhi niche. And we needed location for that fight, for that whole thing. Beautiful background location. So we went to Rajasthan and did it in Jodhpur against the fort. And the best part of it was when you look down from the opposite side, the whole of Jodhpur, like Jaipur, is painted pink. It's called the Pink City. Jodhpur was painted blue. For some reason, the entire basti below the fort was painted blue. So blue was our color. So we said, "Wow, we don't have to do anything. The whole basti is painted." So we shot this with them, and both of them were not well. And it was raining, it was winter. Both of them had a cough and cold. But they were amazing. They just got out with temperature, everything, they came and shot it. And they had to shoot in the rain also because we created rain. Other than the fact that in the middle of this kite fight, Bari here, everybody goes and takes shelter. And then one boy comes and says, "Khatam, khel khatam." Says, "Nahi, abhi charu hai." They make boats out of the kites and they float the boats down the Nali with the rain falling and the water flowing and everybody cheering their kite. The blue kite was the red kite or whatever it was. And then they both go off into the sunset, as we called it. So that film also became viral, not because it was such an original like Tenji, but because this is the first time people are seeing these two greats in one commercial.
And it's also been seen that whenever you say something or the statements you would pass on, it would be taken very seriously, over the years. most of the time, basically. No?
I had to fight for everything because my ideas were so behuda that the client would turn around and say, नहीं नहीं हम नहीं कर सकते ये सब, हमारा ब्रांड इफेक्ट हो जाएगा. मैंने कहा आपका ब्रांड अच्छी तरह इफेक्ट होगा, बुरी तरह नहीं होगा, कोई भूलेगा नहीं आपको ब्रांड को. So there was a tussle always, that nahi, haan, no. So because if you lose market share in a brand, it's a huge thing. It's worth crores. They never wanted to take a risk when in an established brand. But Atlanant said, push the ticket. Because ये boring चीज आप जो बोलते रहे हैं इतने सालों से वो तोड़िए उसको. Move on. There's a new generation today,
Yeah.
So बड़ी मुश्किल से हाथ मरोड़ के I had to do it. And sometimes they wouldn't listen. So I had to do two films. I had to make the film the way they wanted to make the film, and I made the film the way I wanted to make the film. And then I'd show them their film and say, yeah, आपकी film. They say, ये इसमें कुछ मजा नहीं आ रहा. मैंने कहा क्यों मजा आएगा? आइडिया इतनी दम है. I mean इतनी घिसी-पिटी आइडिया आपने ली है तो मजा कैसे आएगा आपको? तो इसे तो क्या करें? सर मैंने एक और बनाई है पर उसको आप हाथ नहीं लगा सकते, एक शब्द नहीं चेंज कर सकते. अगर आप लेंगे तो वैसे लीजिए, नहीं तो मत लीजिए. इट डजंट मैटर. आई पुट इट ऑन माय रील बिकॉज एटलीस्ट मेरे रील पे तो दिखेगी. तो आई शो देम दैट फिल्म एंड देन दे लुक एंड टर्न ऑन, लुक एट ईच अदर एंड से इसमें ये तो बढ़िया है. अच्छा मैं इसलिए आपसे बहस कर रहा था. And finally, you turned around and told me, I'm the client, mine is the last word. So I had to give up. But did I give up? I didn't. मैंने अपने खीसे से पैसा खर्च करके I made the film twice, the way you wanted it and the way I wanted it. Then it became easier later on, because then what happened was I introduced humor in advertising. Because the first time I remember making a really funny advertising film was that Gold Spot was one of our clients, and they had changed the flavor slightly, क्योंकि वो फ्लेवर इम्प्लीमेंट जो था वो FDA ने कहा था कि ये कार्सिनोजेनिक हो सकता है, तो आप ये फ्लेवर एलिमेंट चेंज कर दीजिए, कोई ऑरेंज फ्लेवर ही रखिए पर बिल्कुल नापातुल्ला नहीं होगा, थोड़ा 19-20 होगा. तो दे चेंज द फ्लेवर बट इट वाजंट एब्सोल्युटली द सेम फ्लेवर, 19-20 था. तो जैसे अभी हम चुप बैठेंगे क्योंकि लोगों को महसूस हो ना महसूस हो, बट ऐसे देखो अगर पुराना गोल्ड स्पॉट किसी ने पिया हो फिर वो घूंट लेंगे, दे नो इट्स डिफरेंट. तो वो सोचेंगे ये नकली है, मतलब कि ये सोचेंगे कि कितने घर में बना कर दिया है उनको. They won't think that it's come from the factory. So you may as well tell them that we've changed the flavoring, but it's a very mild flavoring and it's a very interesting flavoring. It's better than before. So they coined a line which they thought was unique. With it. सबसे पहले कुछ शुरुआत करने के पहले, मुहूर्त के पहले आप बताइए आपने नया गोल्ड स्पॉट पिया है. That was the line. तो कॉन्वोकेशन के पहले, डिग्री देने के पहले आपने नया गोल्ड स्पॉट पिया है. सुहाग रात के पहले, घूंघट उठाने के पहले, ब्राइड द ग्रूम, आपने नया गोल्ड स्पॉट पिया है. तो इन द बिगिनिंग इट वाज फनी, बट आफ्टर व्हाइल इट बिकेम प्रिडिक्टेबल बिकॉज एवरीबॉडी न्यू व्हाट वाज गोइंग टू हैपन. So व्हेन यू टेल अ जोक यू कैन नॉट टेलीग्राफ इट. द मोमेंट यू टेलीग्राफ इट इट फॉल्स फ्लैट ऑन इट्स फेस. मैंने कहा यार 5 फिल्में हैं और पांचों यही कह रही हैं एट द एंड. ओके इट माइट बी फनी फॉर वंस ट्वाइस, एक दफे देखो, 2 दफे देखो, उसके बाद पक जाते हो ना, जरा क्या यार लगा रखा है. तो वी ऑन द शूट इटसेल्फ वी डिसाइडेड टू चेंज इट स्लाइटली. तो गोल्ड स्पॉट हैड अनदर ब्रांड कॉल्ड लिम्का व्हिच वाज देयर ओन ब्रांड. So I got in a college canteen, everybody was having gold spot and celebrating, and naya gold spot ye wo na. One geeky looking guy comes out from under the table and says, "Can I have a limca?" So tuck, everybody stopped. This girl looks at him and says, "Shut up, stupid! This is a gold spot film." So this is oh, so, So we did it and we took it to them, and they said, "Nahi, ye kaise ho sakta hai? You have changed a line and, मैंने कहा यार line तो घिसी पिटी है अभी. This is the 5th film. This is the last film and the thing. Let's lift it again. So they said, no, but nobody's ever done it and you are using 2 products in one film now. मैंने कहा आपके लिए अच्छा है ना, किसी और का कोक का किसी और का प्रोडक्ट थोड़ी यूज़ किया, आप ही का प्रोडक्ट है. बड़ी राउंड एंड राउंड बहस चली. We were very uncomfortable. Okay, but finally we convinced them, they used it. Till today, people only remember that film. till today. जो जिसने देखी थी उस टाइम, गोल्ड स्पॉट, नया गोल्ड स्पॉट के बारे में वही याद रखा है अभी, बिकॉज इट टुक देम बाय सरप्राइज. So after that, humor became much easier. So then people started coming to me because they said, "आप funny हैं, आप funny film बना के दीजिए हमें, Ghost Pop जैसा." ये हो गया. Then Pepsi came. Pepsi was always funny. The international campaigns were funny. So we wrote very funny films for them for India. Anuja Chauhan, who was the copywriter, she wrote brilliant scripts for me, and this was really funny. And we went on to make a lot of very funny Pepsi films. उसके बाद हकीकत हो गई है, everybody client wanted funny films. Before Gold Spot, nobody wanted funny films. कि लोग हमारे ऊपर आते हैं. ऐसे सर एक फर्क होता है, laughing at you or laughing with you. So if you're an idiot, they'll laugh at you. If you're so confident that you can laugh at yourself, then they laugh with you. And when they laugh with you, it's a compliment. So that's how it happened. And so I got typecast as a funny filmmaker.
But that's a good compliment, I must say, that, having a humor element in you while creating such ads. And as we talk about the ads in current scenarios, what do you have to say about that? Do you feel the ads being made right now do lack some kind of spontaneity or something like that?
They lack a lot of things. Firstly, they're very cheap and cheerful. तो उनका प्रोडक्शन वैल्यू नहीं है, क्योंकि क्लाइंट कहते हैं नहीं इतने में कर दो. तो वो प्रोड्यूसर भी क्या करेगा, वो तो कहेगा अच्छा कुछ पैसा बनाना है, रोजी रोटी हमारी बना दो इनके लिए जैसे ये चाहते हैं. देयर इज नो फाइट लाइक वी टू फाइट, बिकॉज वी वर मेकिंग फिल्म्स नॉट ओनली फॉर द क्लाइंट, वी वर मेकिंग फिल्म्स फॉर आवरसेल्व्स. हमें कहा हमारी स्टोरी पे ये फिल्म जाएगी तो लोग क्या कहेंगे कि ये फिल्म मेकर है कि ये दलाल है. So we didn't want to be called dalal. Now they don't care what they're called, as long as they make money. So the whole system of creative filmmaking and agencies fighting with clients, because clients they are बहुत agency है, तुम नहीं करोगे तो कोई और कर देगा. That is the way they actually धमकी the agencies. तो इसलिए डर जाती बेचारी कि business जाएगा तो करो यार तुम, they force the copywriter वही लिखो जो कह रहे हैं. And the whole system has broken down to the extent that every film is eminently forgettable except one or two. So there are one or two producers who hold their ground, like Amit Sharma of Chrome Film. वो उसकी film I can recognize his film because they are so beautifully crafted, and they're all stories. आजकल story कोई बताता नहीं. See, we believe that if you don't tell a story, you can't get engagement. बिकॉज लोग जो होते हैं वो जिंगल ही सिर्फ याद नहीं करके रखते, वो उस पर स्टोरी जुड़ी होती है, तो स्टोरी दे कैरी होम बिकॉज दे थिंक दैट हमारी भी यही कहानी है. दे आइडेंटिफाई विद द स्टोरी. अगर आप सिर्फ ऊट पटांग डाल दो और एक जिंगल डाल दो और कहो कि ये प्रोडक्ट बहुत अच्छा है और गाओ मजा करो, it will not last more than 1 month in terms of memorability. And in terms of when you see it on the TV, you'll remember it for 1 hour. After that, you won't, because there's so much on the TV. There's so much rubbish coming on the TV that your mind is full of rubbish. So how are you going to remember something that doesn't have a story? So I find today, in today's time, it's a very sad time for ad filmmakers, because the glory days were in the 90s when we used to make the best film. Up 30 years later, कुछ पूरा रास्ता ही भूल गए. So somebody like me has to be reborn and come back and सबसे लड़ाई करो और फिर reset the whole clock.
Well, you also, like, as I read one of the notes, you are an aspiring sperm donor. I wish to know about it. What is the story about this? You reminded me of Ayushmann Khurrana's Vicky donor. Like, does it? Yeah, so you have like literally inspired them in a way.
No, not really. My friends used to joke with me that you are spreading your sperm so much because you've got so many girlfriends and there's so many women around you. Everybody's so envious of you because you have so many good-looking women. How do you manage it looking as ugly as you do? So the question was, तू इतना ugly है और तू इतनी अच्छी beautiful girls को पटाता कैसे? तो I said, there's no patawing yaar. I mean, they like my humor. They like the way I laugh at the world and at myself mostly, because I laugh at myself. I'm one of the few people who can laugh at himself first. then I can laugh at the world. That allows me, that gives me permission to laugh at the world because I'm first laughing at myself and never take myself seriously. So I think the women find that very refreshing because all the men that they're all showing them dollars and six pack and मैं ऐसा हूँ और मेरा stamina है मैं ये कर सकता हूँ वो कर सकता हूँ. And they're not impressed by that. They say यार ये तो पका देगा हमें. And here I am laughing at myself, laughing at everything around me, laughing at them also, and thinking of scenarios of how guys make passes at them. I say, what are your pickup lines that you heard? Madam, मैंने आपको कभी देखा है कहीं? That typical pickup line. You're not creative.
Yeah.
So they said, what would you do if you wanted to pick me up? I said, I would quote Ogilvy. Ogilvy का एक quote मुझे आता, which was very original. I said, I would come up to you in a party where you're surrounded by lots of pyara looking men all trying to get your attention because you're the most beautiful woman in the room. I'd come up as the ugliest man in the room and come up to you and say, ma'am, excuse me, but my name is Prahlad. And if you give me 5 minutes of undivided time, I will change your life. And they'd say, really? And how are you going to change my life? I said, I'm going to talk my face away. What do you mean you talk your face away? He said, I can become whoever you want me to be. You want me to be Devanand? You want me to be, Rock Hudson? You want me to be anybody that you think is somebody?
Yeah.
In 5 minutes, I'll talk my face away. You'll believe that I'm him.
Okay.
So they said, really? Let me try this out. It was a challenge. So they'd give me that 5 minutes. The 5 minutes became 10 minutes, became half an hour, became 1 hour. And everybody saying, यार, तू किसी की तरफ देख नहीं रही, तू ये कर रहा है इसको conversation में, कैसे कर रहा है? Says, because I can talk my face away. So that is the trick. And that is what Wilby said in his book. In his book, he wrote, he says, as a writer or as a filmmaker or as an advertising professional, you have to be able to talk your face away if you want to convince a client about your idea.
That's quite interesting. And I have to ask you about owning a restaurant, a beach resort. You also have a scuba diving school, which is something which you really love personally, and a cigar brand. Like literally, if I could see the cigar picture over here, you could see like enjoying the complete atmosphere over there. And scuba diving is your personal favorite sports. So tell me about that.
See, first I'll tell you a secret. People think that I've worked very hard in my life to achieve whatever I've achieved, whatever little I've achieved. If I had to work so hard like I've worked, I would never be able to achieve it. Because somewhere or another I would get tired, somewhere or another I'd get bored, somewhere or another I'd say it's not worth it. Okay? I have never worked a single day in my life. Because to me, work is something that you have to do for a living which you don't enjoy. But if you enjoy what you do, the living takes care of itself. So you do it anyway. It's like a hobby. You don't have any fixed hours for hobby. You don't have 9 to 5 hobby. If you have a hobby, it's a passion. It's a 9 to 9 hobby. It can be 24 hours. It can be 36 hours. And at the end of it, you feel tired, but you don't feel like you worked. You feel you had a blast. So it's like having a party. Is there a limit to a party? The party lasts as long as you are enjoying it. Right? As long as you are capable of enjoying it. So kar lo, nichod lo. So I've nichoded my life only doing what I wanted to do. I've never done anything that I didn't want to do to date. Because if anything that you don't want to do, but you have to do, it sounds like work. I've never worked. So people, all these things that I've done, they're all my passions. So I've done them with no idea of monetizing them or making lots of money from them or doing anything of the sort. They were just fun. So when they were fun, you could put your heart and soul into it and not worry about the bottom line. Everybody worries about the bottom line. पैसा मिलेगा कि नहीं मिलेगा? यार भाड़ में जाए मजा आ रहा है ना? तो इतना मजा आ रहा है कि you would actually खीसे से पॉकेट निकाल के डालोगे ना? अगर आपको स्कूबा डाइविंग करनी है, बहुत मजा आता है, तो आपका खुद का स्कूल नहीं है, तो आप किसी स्कूल में जाओगे, उसको सॉलिड अमाउंट ऑफ पैसा दोगे, एंड देन यू वुड डाइव. हाउ मेनी टाइम्स अ मंथ, हाउ मेनी टाइम्स अ ईयर कुड यू डाइव? वंस, ट्वाइस? I used to dive every month of my life in the season. The season was from October to May. That was the season. I used to have every month 10 days. So if I calculated how much it would cost me, I couldn't afford it. But by starting a scuba diving school, I could dive to my heart's content, take my friends there, take my family there, take my children there. Look at that. That they're all on the island. They're like little, they're like chokras. They don't look like city children. They look like gaon ke bacche. So that's where my children grew up, on the island. So to me, the value that I got out of scuba diving or the restauranting or the cigars wasn't how much money I made from it. Because everybody, the mistake everybody makes is when they do a business, it sounds like work. Because that business, and they do it for making money. They don't necessarily enjoy it. Okay, they enjoy making the money, but they don't necessarily enjoy the work. I love the work, and the money is incidental. Because if I had to spend money to do that, it would cost me an arm and a leg. If I had to take my children 3 times a year during the holidays to a paradise island and let them loose on the beach and run around like hell, catching crabs, snorkeling, looking at fish, looking at and growing up in the lap of the ocean, I would have to be a millionaire. Right? I could live the life of a millionaire being nothing. Because these were my passions. And because I did them, and I did everything at the same time, तुझे टाइम कितना मिलता है? तू फिल्म भी कर रहा है, तू स्कूबा डाइविंग भी कर रहा है, रेस्टोरेंट भी खोला हुआ है. तो I said, when you love something, you always find the time. You always make the time. You don't find the time, you make the time. So I make the time because I want to do it. If the day I found that I didn't want to do it, I'd not do it. And see, my Prithit Cafe, for instance, it became one of the most successful restaurants in Bombay when I first started. When it was right on top, and Jennifer Kapoor died, and she was the heart and the inspiration behind that restaurant. Inside me, a light died. And I gave the keys back to them and said, thank you very much, but you can run it now. It's a successful operation, still running. My Irish coffee is still there. That is the one I invented. Okay, they don't give me credit for it, but it's still there. You can drink the Irish coffee, it's there. And I started it. So I left it when it was right on top. I could have hung on to it and said, let me see how much money I can make. I wasn't interested. I was making enough money making ad films. So I wasn't under any tension to make money out of my hobbies. But they gave me a lifestyle and they gave me an opportunity to influence other people and introduce them to certain disciplines, introduce them to good food, introduce them to the ocean. And then we started an NGO to teach children about how to protect the ocean and how important the ocean was. So all that was such an important part of that growing up period of mine. So I just did everything that I wanted to do. I just didn't touch anything that I didn't want to do. Anything that felt or smacked of work, I just avoided. I ran away.
In today's life, if I have to talk about actresses who you feel are beautiful and gorgeous, who would that be?
See, actresses are different from models. You can be a gorgeous woman and be a model and get away with it because you're not expected to emote.
Yeah.
Okay, you just stand there in front of the camera and the camera likes you, you're looking beautiful. So, but when you talk to her, and there's nothing behind the beautiful face. There's no personality, there's no depth, there's no passion, there's no ability, there's no craftsmanship. Then suddenly your dimensions of beauty change. So beautiful nahi hai. So you then start expecting more from beauty than just looks. So an actress has to be much more than a good-looking woman. She has to be a woman with character. She has to be a woman of substance. She has to have character. She has to have influence. She has to have huge talent to become different characters. If she's only playing herself all the time, then you've seen her. And she takes off her clothes. Then you've seen that also. So uske baad kya hoga?
Yeah.
when a woman has exposed herself for whatever because the role demands it, and that's all she is because she's just very good looking and no talent, then that's all she can do now. And then how many times can you see her? You can't. But if a woman keeps changing with every role and exposing a part of her which is like a talent which you don't expect a good looking woman to be so intense. And when she is, you look at her, wow. So when you talk about beauty, you talk about two different ends of the spectrum. So when people say that models can become actresses, I completely deny that. All models cannot become actors. Only some models can become actresses. Those who have a little more depth, who have a little more than just a good looks. And there are lots of women who are not great looking, who are great actresses. Take Shabana Azmi. If you look at her feature for feature, she's not anybody's idea of beauty. But she's mesmerizing. When she's on the screen, the camera just holds her. You cannot take your eyes away from her. She's that good. From her first film, which was Ankur, which I was assistant director of, with Shyam Benegal. When Shyam gave her that role of which he had actually written for Wahida Rahman, because in his college days she was the beauty, and he had written the role for her. And when Shabana walked in, then he said she's too young for that role because he needed an older woman. We told him change the script. It doesn't matter. This woman is magic. He said, "What do you mean? She has large, teeth. She has a pakoda nose. She has a beautiful mouth. She's an Indian woman. She's big. She's not delicate. She's a full woman." Today's idea of beauty, we look at it as the Western model. Like, do you look good in a swimsuit? Shabana, you look horrible in a swimsuit on day one. Okay, so she never went that direction. But she had a legacy. She was her father's daughter, her mother's daughter. Her father was a brilliant writer and poet. Mother was a terrific theatre actress. So she got combinations of both. And she was very intelligent. If you look at her eyes, if you take a close up of Shabana, you see the intelligence in her eyes. They're not dead eyes. They're live eyes. So that is what I'm talking about. When you take a woman like Shabana or you take a woman like Smita who's dark, who's, look at her on the street, say, nahi yaar, it's good. Look at a woman like Sridevi, who outside, off the set, she would look like any bhalta South Indian lady. And you put her in front of the lights and thak, she would come on like a 100-watt bulb. There was something inside her which really came out. Even though she did very disapita commercial films, she was brilliant. You could not see. The thing is with a beautiful woman on a screen, if she doesn't have character, you can take your eyes away from her. But if she has character and she has depth and she has ability and intelligence, you can't take your eyes away. You are just riveted. And that's what actresses are compared to models. So all models cannot become actresses because all models have to be beautiful. Some of them have the character and the depth to become actresses, and Shabana was never a model, but Aishwarya was, Sushmita was, a lot of them were models who had depth. But there were a lot of beautiful models who never made it because they couldn't perform, they couldn't hold an audience. There has to be something about you that holds an audience because that's what acting is all about.
And lastly, I have to ask you that I could see a lot of chapters being shared over here. The very first one, the only question I have is, which has been the most scandalous chapter you have spoken about in this book?
All scandalous. My whole life has been scandalous. I was thrown out of play school for flashing. Can you imagine? Starts with the nalki. I want a nalki. I didn't know what a nalki was. The principal's daughter wanted to see why we were different. And I didn't care because I didn't think we were different. I thought she also had a nalki. At 5 o'clock, what do you know the difference between girls and boys? So she threw a tantrum and she said, I'm the principal's daughter and you show me out. So we quietly showed her that. Then she ran away. She didn't show us. She went to her mother and said, I want. So mother said, what do you want, baby? She said, spoiled little child. She said, I want a nalki like Prahlad and Naveen. So she said, how do you know they have a nalki? They showed me. Parents were called, rusticated, immediately sent out of school in disgrace.
Oh my God. That's very scary. And even as I read, like you lost your virginity at a very young age, and
No, that was Tafat.
that was ittifaq literally, but still, like, confessing something about that. We have seen Ranbir Kapoor confessing, and you are literally on those lines. You are much ahead of him because much ahead of time you have done something where in India.
No, everybody loses their virginity at some stage or another in their lives. And they were very efficient about it, but they talk about it to their friends.
Like now we talk about it openly that okay, TK, someone is having a
No,
consensual
women
relationship.
never talk about it, even now.
Yeah, women don't talk about it, but men like
And
openly.
they all pretend to be virgins.
Huh.
So I call them, I have a name for girls who pretend to be virgins when they're not.
Huh.
It's called born again virgin.
Born again. Oh my God. But you tell me about that experience. Of course, I would not want to know whatever happened, but suddenly.
One thing leads to another. You don't intend to right from the bottom. See, when you're in a relationship, you sometimes lose control of the relationship because both parties actually join together to form something third. So you have your own passions and desires. She has her own passions and desires. When you combine them together and catalyze them, it becomes an atom bomb. Then it goes out of control. Then neither does she. Can she control it? Nor can you. And then it just happens. And then you look and say, oops, अब क्या हुआ? अब क्या करेंगे? And then you think of all sorts of horrible scenarios and say, oh, you don't tell anybody, I won't tell anybody. Supposing I get pregnant. Says, oh God, if you get pregnant, I'll die.
Oh God. Okay. Yeah.
She says, what do you mean you'll die? I'll die.
Oh God. Yeah. That's very interesting, I must say. It's a very different story altogether. But Prahlad sir, you never thought of getting into acting, apart from, just being an ad filmmaker and doing different kind of.
Brilliant actor.
Yeah.
Because either director, you have to be an actor.
Yeah.
So how do you direct your actors? You have to show them sometimes. Na? Sometimes they can't understand in words. क्या उनको चाहिए क्या आपको चाहिए क्या आपको नुआंस क्या चाहिए इधर मोटा मोटा everybody understands आप हंसिए हाँ आप रोइए तो उसके बीच में क्या होता है हंसने के बीच में रोना now that is very difficult ना हंसते हंसते रोना शुरू हो गए so you have to show them it's very subtle from full laughter you become quiet and then you start thinking and then you start crying and then nobody can stop you from crying okay but I was always a Shambhanical student, which is Shambhanical always believes in method acting. You have to believe what you're doing. You can't act just because you're acting. You have to believe it inside you, bring it out from inside you. So that means that two actors will never do the same scene the same way because their beliefs are different, their experiences are different, their growing up is different, their educations are different. So they will deep delve into their own souls and look at their experiences and मुझे ऐसा हुआ था अब now let me refeel it to emote in front of the camera so you're not consciously emoting you're consciously feeling the emotion and your face is doing its own thing so you're not in control of your face it's not that हंसो रो ऐसा नहीं है caricature नहीं है caricature भी होता है पर caricature acting नहीं होती
Yeah. That's very interesting, and I can see a lot of things to be revealed in this book. Apart from this, you're going to come with a second version. Would you prefer making a film around it?
I don't know. I wouldn't want to make a film on myself. It's up to somebody else who wants to make a film on it and cast it.
Would you prefer?
Anybody. I mean, whoever falls off their chair laughing and believes in it and can see. See, filmmakers are very strange kind of people.
Yeah.
It's a different animal. Filmmakers don't read scripts. They see the script. When they're reading it, they're already closing their eyes and in their mind's eye, they're imagining how the scene is. Now, no two filmmakers are going to do the same scene the same way because their experience of that scene is different. Exactly like two actors, if you give them an emotional scene to do, no two actors will do the same scene the same way because they take it from inside them. Similarly, directors, if they read a lot, if they watch a lot of films, उनके मन में एक होता है कि एक फर्मा होता है, which is not absolute. It changes all the time. But when you read a line, and it says, like if you read Harry Potter, it's a very visually written film, book. You read the line and you can close your eyes and you can imagine क्या हो रहा है. You know, अब जो imagination आपकी है ना, that makes you a filmmaker. So a filmmaker has to not read the lines. A filmmaker has to see the lines. Now, very few non-filmmakers understand what I'm talking about. They यार लिखा हुआ हर्फ है, आप उसको देख कैसे सकते हो? What is it? You're seeing the harf. You say, no, you're not seeing the harf. You're seeing the arth, not the harf. So filmmakers see the arth of the line, what is written, and they can close the eye, they can see the scene. But everyone sees it differently.
Yeah.
Nobody sees it the same way, however detailed you write it. So that's why when you give a film to be made by two different filmmakers, even an ad film, कितना भी आप बोलो उनको एक मिली जुली नहीं होगी, हटके होगी.
Well, that was lovely knowing so much about you in depth and also about a lot of things around ads, around meeting models, around your special experiences, I must say that. And
I've laughed my way through life.
Same here.
I have laughed at myself more than anything else. And in my book, I'm actually a fly on the wall watching me do all my can'ts and think, kya pagal aadmi hai ye?
But it's very interesting to meet the madman and following his work and seeing all this. And definitely I'm going to get this copy. But lovely chatting with you. And thank you so much for a lovely interview. Looking forward to see more of your chapters. Literally unleashing different chapters of your life.
They're very visual because I'm a visual person. So I don't write, my descriptive writing is all about visuals. So I first see the visual, then I write the visual down because it's not that you write the visual and then you see the visual. नहीं, मेरा opposite है. मैं पहले देखता हूँ कि क्या हुआ था उस time और कैसे हुआ था, and then I try and make it as close to that visual as possible. So when you read the book, you'll actually be able to see it. It's a very visually written book.
Well, thank you so much, Prahlad sir, for your lovely time and all the very best for your upcoming projects which you're working on and whatever you're doing. We are going to definitely see that. And thank you for such a lovely time today.
Thank you.